Clemson 31, Virginia Tech 17. Mark Rogers TV with some instant analysis of the Tigers' latest win and a very difficult opponent. So they become the first team since the AP poll commenced way back in the 1930s, as I understand it, to enter October having defeated 3 top 15 opponents. It's very impressive, and they disposed of all 3 rather handily. We bring in Justin Cates from inside the ACC, also Fighting Gobbler, to help us break down the action tonight. Justin, how you doing?
Doing all right, Mark. How are you doing?
We're doing just fine. We're going the phone call type route with Justin tonight. What's important is we get the analysis and can hear you loud and clear. So, Justin, your take on this Clemson team and just the game in general.
Yeah, well, like the Hokies, I myself am having technical difficulties. This was a bit of an issue tonight. Kind of a strange game in the first half. If you were looking purely at the numbers, Clemson absolutely dominated, but the Hokies were hanging in there, very much so. And if it weren't for the 60-yard touchdown pass to Tavian Feaster on what was a busted coverage, that game was very much kind of a push up until the last drive when Clemson managed to get that extra touchdown and go ahead 17-3 headed into halftime. The Hokies ended up making the total yardage very close, but a lot of that came in garbage time, so that's something to be aware of. But again, Clemson did not dominate. They did everything they needed to, took care of every single opportunity they were given, and a lot of credit to be had there. It was just one of those things where they almost don't have to do that much because they're so talented. Kelly Bryant didn't have to blow you away statistically. You look at his passing numbers, 12 of 21, 186 yards and a touchdown. That's not overly incredible, but then you look at his rushing numbers, 94 yards on the ground net, and that was what really blew the game wide open. He made some great runs. A lot of third down conversions were made, just him with his feet, making great plays. And that was what really was the difference for Clemson. They again, have the talent advantage, and they will have that going forward, I think. You look at almost every game on the schedule, they're going to have a great advantage. But just it was an odd game in that sense that they kind of didn't have to do more than, just the basic kind of baseline Clemson attack.
We're joined by Justin Cates of Inside the ACC and Fighting Gobbler. Please join him there for the best in ACC sports coverage, football in particular, and, of course, Virginia Tech. For me, it's almost as if Dabo Swinney decided going into the Auburn game, we've got a great defense and we've got great athletes on offense. Kelly Bryant is not going to mess it up for us. We need to let him develop. And they got by that game, and then something clicked as to maybe something in practice, something he saw in the Auburn game, and he thought, I can let this kid loose. He's that good. He's not going to mess things up. I can cut him loose a little bit. That's what they did at Louisville. Now, in this game, became more of a defensive struggle. The defense obviously locked Virginia Tech down when it really counted, and they got pretty conservative again. They didn't have to throw it too many times, 12 of 21, as you mentioned. Defensively for Clemson, I just think they check all the boxes. The defensive ends are explosive. They rush the passer. They're athletic. They seal the edge. The defensive tackles anchor down against the run. They're immovable. They push the pocket against the pass. The linebackers are all in the right positions. They're athletic enough to cover. They're great tacklers. They shed blocks. The corners lock down on receivers. They don't blow coverage. They're short tacklers. The safeties are versatile, meaning they can support the run, but also they don't blow coverages, and they support against slot receivers and tight ends and the like. It's just this tough, smart, tenacious defense. And right now, with Alabama playing is better than anyone else in the country and as complete teams, they seem to be separating themselves and maybe headed toward a three-peat national championship game. So let's look at Virginia Tech, Justin, before we let you go. Your thoughts about the Hokies. And I know when you play inferior opponents, the typical response is, well, we really couldn't tell much from that game because that team was so much below us. You could almost, in some respects, say the same thing here. You know you're not as good as Clemson, but they might be the best team in the country. So for the Coastal Division, it's still right there for you, and Miami seems to be your running mate as the standard in that division right now.
Yeah, and, don't sleep on Georgia Tech. I think they're a sneaky pick in that division, the Coastal in particular. They have that running game, and I think that they're going to be in it until the end, and that Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech is always a terrific game, I think. The Hokies, you're right that they did not play an extraordinary schedule coming in and weren't overly tested. I think West Virginia is a good football team, and people are kind of sleeping on them because they haven't played really anyone since the Tech game. But that was a good test, and the Hokies passed that in the opening game. But since then, yeah, kind of just almost running through the motions. East Carolina and Old Dominion were not overly challenging opponents, and Delaware also another kind of relatively easy win. One thing that I think you're right. Clemson, obviously a fantastic team. They outmatched the Hokies in many ways. Virginia Tech's game plan in the first half offensively was almost, and I don't mean to Monday morning quarterback, but it's Saturday night, so we'll go with it. It was really conservative. And that's kind of going to be the case with a young quarterback in Josh Jackson. And he also, that's kind of his game plan, is if there's nothing open, throw it away. And they like short passes. Clemson was all over all the short passes, so there weren't a lot of chances taken. And I just wonder if maybe they'd taken a few more chances, maybe something else could have burst free. But, at the same time, I understood the play. They didn't want to make a turnover early. They wanted to stay in the game for as long as they could, and it worked relatively well. But Clemson just had too much firepower, just a few too many chances. The Hokies are going to be in this the long run, and I think there's a good chance, if things go their way, that this is going to be a rematch down the line in the ACC title game, just like last year.
Cam Phillips, of course, the centerpiece of the pass offense, 7 catches for 74 yards. Much was made of trying to find a second and third guy for him. C.J. Carroll, Eric Kuma, Sean Savoy, those are the candidates and the guys that figured into the passing game tonight with a few receptions for each of them. Justin Cates from inside the ACC and Fighting Gobbler joining us to talk Virginia Tech and Clemson following the Tigers' 31-17 win in Blacksburg. Justin, we appreciate you joining us for some instant analysis.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Good to be with you.